Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Harināma Cintāmaṇi. Today we will be studying chapter 10 of this book, and this is the seventh offense according to the list that is given here, which is preaching or giving the name, holy name to the faithless. Now, the sequence of offenses in the sequence that we chant every day in the morning, it's a bit different, but it's fine. All are mentioned, it's just that the order is a little bit different. Alright, so we will say our Mangalacharan prayers and invoke the blessings of Srila Prabhupada and the entire parampara, and we will begin the session. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Caitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Caitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we will be studying the seventh offense according to the list of Harināma Cintāmaṇi, and that is giving the name to the unfaithful. So this offense the way we recite the offenses every day, this comes as number 9 offense, but here it is coming as number 7. It doesn't matter because the additional offenses which we say, that is also included in the 10. So that's why. So alright. Gadai Gauranga Jaya Jannava Jivan Sitadvaita Jaya Shrivasadi Bhaktagan. Haridas with folded hands spoke of the next aparadh. Because he has not developed any faith in Krishna or the name, the materialist cannot even hear the name. To take up the name, one must have qualification. That qualification is faith and faith alone. So now, if you see countries other than India, in India there is the advantage that people's names are Krishna or Rama or Mukunda or Madhusudan or Hari. There are so many names that are, names of Krishna. So even by calling one's friend, by calling somebody, and there are so many temples. So there is a lot of, and also Janmashtami is a public holiday, along with a few other demigod appearance days as well. So it's very close. The name of Krishna is easily accessible to the people of India. But especially when you come outside of India, you will see that there is very little chance of people actually getting accustomed to these names of Krishna. Now, of course, nowadays Indians are everywhere, and people will be exposed a little bit here and there to the names, but still, it's not as ingrained as in India. So, as much as we are sinful, that much we will be far away from chanting the name of Krishna. In fact, in the whole life, there is almost no chance of chanting the name of Krishna in any way. So that means that is a sign and symptom of a person who is sinful. So anyway, to take up the name, one must have qualification. Now, the previous session, we were saying that there is no need of qualification for the name. Just by chanting alone, one can get all benefit. Whereas mantras like Gayatri mantra, we need some qualification. One needs to be a Brahmana in order to chant Gayatri mantra. So, but here also it is said, to chant the holy name one must need qualification, and that qualification is faith and faith alone. So it's not some other qualification, it's just faith. In the Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a song, Bodo Sukher Khabor Gai. In that he says, Nityananda Prabhu, he does not see Jati Dhana Vidya Kula Nakare Apeksha Śraddhā Matra Diye Śraddhā Matra Diye Śraddhā Matra Liye Den Paramananda. Yes. So, just by seeing Śraddhā Matra, Śraddhā Matra means just faith. That is the only qualification that Nityananda Prabhu is looking for. And if somebody has it, and then he is ready to give the holy name. So, and he doesn't see Jati Dhana Vidya Bala Nakore Apeksha. So, this is the greatness of Krishna consciousness. In any other process, you need to be a little bit qualified to at least perform those things, those practices. For example, a yogi, he has to be quite accomplished in yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, all these things. But even a child can perform kirtan. He can chant the holy names of Krishna. I think, you have Śraddhā Matra Loya Den Paramananda. There's another verse where he says, Jati Dhana Vidya Bala Nakore Apeksha. So, even a child can participate in Hare Kirtan, Krishna Kirtan. You see? So, it is sublime, and at the same time it is easily accessible. One doesn't have to be a great scholar. For example, if one has to be a jnani, he has to be a great scholar. And not only scholar, he should also be a great tapasvi. Same with yoga. Hatha yoga is not easy. Now, that doesn't mean that it is more higher than bhakti yoga, because it is very difficult. It is very difficult because it is going against the natural tendency of the constitutional position of the living entity. Just like if I go against the wind, if I am sailing the boat in the ocean and then I am going against the wind, that is more difficult. I may say that is adventure, I may say whatever it is, but it is going to be difficult, dangerous. But if I go with the wind, it will be very easy. So Krishna's instructions are like the wind. Mayanukulena nabhasvateritam. And the human body is nirdehamadhyam sulabham sudurlabham plavam sukalpam gurukarnadharam. So this human body, which is very rarely achieved, it is like a perfectly constructed boat, and the spiritual master is the captain, and the instructions of Krishna are like the favorable wind. And because the devotee goes with the wind, and the wind, in which direction it flows, it blows. It blows towards the kingdom of God, away from the material world. But if I want to go this way, I want to go against the wind, then it's going to be trouble. So that's why these other processes have a lot of trouble involved. But Bhakti Yoga, especially by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, whose appearance day is just 2 days away, it is very, very easy. That is the real benediction of Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. He made the toughest thing easiest. In fact, we have done a TikTok also on this. I think it's called the Impossible Triangle. How Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the highest benediction at not only zero cost, but he is giving bonus. So that we have explained in that 1 minute video, I think, which is also on Instagram. But we haven't put it on YouTube. Maybe for Gaura Purnima we should put it on YouTube. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very merciful. That is the special contribution of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Bhakti Yoga, there has never been big qualifications required for attaining perfection in Bhakti Yoga. Now, let us look at some of those verses. First of all, let's read Bhagavad Gita. (932) मां हि पार्थव्यपाश्रित्य येऽपि स्युः पापयोनयः स्त्रियो वैश्यास्तथा शूद्रास्तेऽपि यान्ति परां गतिम्. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas or merchants, and Shudras or workers, can attain the supreme destination. So whether they be women, Vaishyas and Shudras who are considered lower birth, more sinful than, Brahmanas, for example. That's why in the next, you see, here in this verse it is said, even though they be of lower birth, they can attain the supreme destination. Those who take shelter in Krishna. Next, Kim punar brahmanah punya bhakta rajarshayas anityama sukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam. How much more this is so of the righteous Brahmanas, the devotees and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engaged in loving service unto me. So, the Brahmanas and Rajarshis are higher in birth. But women, Vaishyas and Shudras are considered lower in birth. Okay, Divya Mataji is saying the voice is repeating twice for same line. But for others, maybe it looks okay. Okay, maybe you have to go out and come in, maybe close the live stream and then open back again, maybe. Okay, so the Brahmanas and the Rajarshis, they are considered higher birth. Vaishyas, Shudras and women as a class, they all are considered lower birth, but still everybody can attain. There is no bar in achieving perfection in Krishna consciousness. And that is also stated here in the 13th chapter. अन्ये त्वेवम् अजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about Him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. Now, again, there are those who, anya means others, means they are not so important. They are not so important position in the society. Like, for example, if you see the previous verses, 1324, let's see. 1324. Ya evam vetti purusham prakritim cha gunaihi saha sarvatha vartamanopi nasa bhuyo bhijayate. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. he will not take birth here again regardless of his present position. So one who understands all this philosophy very nicely, he will get liberation. So of course one has to be a little bit learned, right? So next, 1325. Dhyanena atmani pashyanti kechid atmanam atmana anye sankhena yogena karma yogena chapare. Some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. So the karma yogis, the jnana yogis, and the hatha yogis. So, you still require some capability to do these things. But others, anyetvevam ajanantaha, without spiritual knowledge, the others are not, especially this is referring to striya, vaishyas, tatha shudras. So they, shruttvanyebhyah upasate, te bichatintarantyeva mrityum shrutiparayana. So they are not very conversant in spiritual knowledge, but they begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about Him from others. And they are not philosophically minded, they are not so rigid in their practices, but they have this good habit of hearing from authorities. Of course, here they said hearing from others, and there are many people who are talking about Krishna, and some are Avaishnava, they are not Vaishnavas. But if by chance, if by fortune he listens to a Vaishnava, then he will also become, because of the tendency to hear from authorities, you see that is important. Shrutiparayana. So they also transcend the bar. If they don't hear from authorities, they will go down. But everybody has to hear from authority, parampara system, proper guru. So these things are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So in the Bhagavatam also, Kunti Devi is saying 1:8:20. Tatha paramahamsanam muninam amalatmanam bhakti yoga vidhanartham katham pashyemahi striyah. You yourself descend to propagate the transcendental signs of devotional service unto the hearts of advanced transcendentalists and mental speculators who are purified by being able to discriminate between matter and spirit. How then can we women know you perfectly? See, Paramahamsanam, Muninam, Amalatmanam, these kind of souls you are available to. You are available to Paramahamsas, great Munis, and Amalatmanam. Amala means pure-hearted souls. And pure-hearted means those whose mind, you see how Prabhupada translated, those whose minds are competent to discern between spirit and matter, they are pure-hearted. Others are not. Sometimes they say, children are pure-hearted. They are ignorant, they are innocent. Just like a tree will be very hard and strong, but when it is just growing, it is very tender. You may say, it's not hard, it's soft. No, it is just waiting to become hard. The tendency is there. It's just a matter of maturity. Now, pure-hearted means with complete knowledge. With complete knowledge. So that is Amalatmanam. They don't have any misconception. What is this mala? Mala means impurity, pollution, polluted understanding, polluted thought. Any thought based on imperfect understanding is a polluted thought. It's not just the absolute sinful thoughts that are polluted thought, but even any thought to enjoy in this material world is a polluted thought. So Amalatmana means they don't have these imperfections. So for those people, Kunti Devi is saying, you descend to propagate the transcendental signs of devotional service unto the hearts of advanced transcendentalists, mental speculators, who are purified by being able to discriminate between matter and spirit. How then can we women know you perfectly? So she is saying that women as a class, they usually are not fixed in this understanding. They always have a materialistic understanding of life. And same is true for those who are attached too much to women. And actually, not only women, anybody who has not received the mercy of a pure devotee is always attached to these things, and therefore his understanding is very imperfect and he cannot know. So usually women are considered less intelligent. Now this is controversial, especially in today's day and age. But we should just accept the Vedic version as it is. And it is not for many times we have reiterated this point, that it is not for creating any controversy, but just to understand things as they are and then address them accordingly. So, this is Kunti Devi saying. Of course, there are many others, but you see 5. Hanuman is also saying. न जन्मनूनं महतो न सौभगं न वान्न बुद्धिर्नाकृतिस्तोषहेतुः तैर्यद्विसृष्टानपि नो वनौकसश् चकार सख्ये बत लक्ष्मणाग्रजः. One cannot establish a friendship with the Supreme Lord Ramachandra on the basis of material qualities such as one's personal beauty, one's eloquence, one's sharp intelligence, or one's superior race or nation. None of these qualifications is actually a prerequisite for friendship with Lord Sri Ramachandra. Otherwise, how is it possible that although we uncivilized inhabitants of the forest have not taken noble births, although we have no physical beauty, and although we cannot speak like gentlemen, Lord Ramachandra has nevertheless accepted us as friends? How is that possible? We missed out one verse in the second canto, 2:4:18. किरातहूणान्ध्रपुलिन्दपुल्कषाभिरशुम्भा यवनाः खसादयः येन्ये च पापा यदपाश्रयाश्रयाः शुध्यन्ति तस्मै प्रभविष्णवे नमः. Kirata, Huna, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Abhira, Shumbha, Yavana, members of the Khasa races and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord due to His being the supreme power. Vishnu being the supreme power, if one takes the shelter of those devotees who have taken shelter of the supreme power Vishnu, they get purified. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto Him. So, these classes of people, Kirata, Huna, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulkasha and all this, they are very, very low in their culture. Very low. Much lower than Shudras. But they also can be purified by taking to devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. So, there is no other qualification. That's what I am trying to impress upon you. So, what is said, only faith is the only thing in the holy name. Faith is the only qualification. So, if anybody, whether from any background, if they can have some faith that this Hare Krishna chanting is something very good, and they take to it, then they will reap the benefits. And that, you can practically see this. Srila Prabhupada went to America and he has created magic. He has, delivered all kinds of sinful people. You see? We have the verse also, 12 to, or is it 12:1? (12:3) maybe. Missing something. Okay, you know what? Just search it here. Oh, 11. 11:12. 3 to 6. 4 verses. 3, 4, 5, 6. 11, 12, 3 through 6. Satsangena hi daiteya yatu dhana mrigaah khagaah gandharvapsaraso nagaah siddhas charana guhyakaah vidyadhara manushyeshu वैश्याः शूद्राः स्त्रियोऽन्त्यजाः रजस्तमः प्रकृतयस्तस्मिन् युगे युगे बहवो मत्पदं प्राप्तास्त्वाष्ट्रकायाधवादयः वृषपर्वा बलिर्बाणो मयश्चाथ विभीषणः सुग्रीवो हनुमान् वृक्षो गजो गृध्रो वणिक्पथः व्याधः कुब्जा व्रजे गोप्यो यज्ञपत्न्यस्तथा परे. In every yuga, many living entities entangled in the modes of passion and ignorance gained the association of my devotees. Thus, such living entities as the Daityas, demons, the descendants of Diti are called Daityas, the descendants of Aditi are called Adityas, but the father is the same, Kashyapa Muni. But Aditi and Aditi are his wives. So from Diti all demons come out, from Aditi all demigods come out. So, thus such living entities as the Daityas, Rakshasas, birds, beasts, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Siddhas, Charanas, Guhyakas, Vidyadharas, as well as such lower class human beings as the Vaishyas, Shudras, women and others were able to achieve my supreme abode. Vritrasura, Prahlad Maharaj and others like them also achieved my abode by association with my devotees, as did personalities such as Vrishaparva, Bali Maharaj, Banasura, Maya, Vibhishana, Sugriva, Hanuman, Jambavan, Gajendra, Jatayu, Tuladhara, Dharmavyadha, Kubja, the gopis in Vrindavan and the wives of the Brahmanas who were performing sacrifice. So of course here the gopis of Vrindavan are mentioned as very low born. Actually all of them, as if they are very low born, actually all of them are great devotees, but on the strength of devotional service. Otherwise the gopis were just cowherd girls. But because of devotional service they are the topmost. Ramya Kachadupasana Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita. Even the greatest of munis and yogis and all these jnanis, they cannot match. They cannot match these gopis. Or they cannot match any of these devotees mentioned. Any of these. So, again, the same point. I think there is another one also in the. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah, Padyavali, 8th verse. व्याधस्याचरणं ध्रुवस्य च वयो विद्या गजेन्द्रस्य का कुब्जायाः किमु नाम रूपमधिकं किं तत्सुदाम्नो धनं वंशः को विदुरस्य यादवपतेर्उग्रस्य किं पौरुषं भक्त्या तुष्यति केवलं न च गुणैर् Bhakti Priyo Madhava. Bhaktya Tushyati Kevalam. Beautiful. Nacha Gunair. It does not care for qualities, all these qualities, material qualities. Bhaktya Tushyati Kevalam. Only by bhakti he is satisfied. Where were the hunter Dharma's piety, Dhruva's maturity, and Gajendra's knowledge? Where was Kubja's beauty? Where was Sudama's wealth? Where was Vidura's noble birth? Where was Ugrasena's chivalrous strength? Lord Madhava is pleased only by devotional service and not by material qualities. Written by Sri Dakshinatya. This is from Padyavali, verse 8. Padyavali is a book or anthology of shlokas or verses where Rupa Goswami collected all different kinds of shlokas from great Vaishnavas and put them in a collection, and that such a collection is called an anthology in literature, in the study of literature. So he compiled this anthology of verses, and that is called Padyavali. So this particular verse was composed by Dakshinatya. I don't know even who he is, but beautiful verse, right? So the whole point is this: only qualification in Bhakti Yoga is faith, Śraddhā. And what is Śraddhā? Śraddhā shabde Vishwasa ko hai Sudridha nischay. Śraddhā shabde Vishwasa ko hai Sudridha nischay. Krishna bhakti koile sarva karma krita hai. Śraddhā is confident, firm faith that by rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. Such faith is favorable to the discharge of devotional service. What does it mean? That means I only need to do Krishna bhakti. Everything else I do not have to pay any attention to. Of course, one should have firm faith. When one's Śraddhā increases, then one actually behaves on this platform. But if one does not have that Śraddhā, then he will still tend towards his materialistic way of working. But of course, even as a Grihastha, even when you're working, you can be Krishna conscious. Now the only thing is Śraddhā, faith. That just by doing Krishna conscious activities, just by serving Krishna, everything else will be taken care of. So always the importance should be on Krishna consciousness. Not that, let my material plans a little bit, settle, then I'll take to Krishna consciousness. That means I don't have faith. When I have to take to Krishna consciousness, I'm not saying that you have to immediately leave your, whatever you are doing. It's not possible immediately for most people. So, what I'm saying is, we have to give the importance to Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, then automatically the material issues will get solved by themselves. In fact, many of the times they don't need solving. The solving actually is here. Because we are too attached. So we want some outcome. So when we become devotee, we understand that actually this is, it doesn't deserve that much attention. Then the pain that it used to cause or the anxiety that it used to cause will be nullified when we don't pay that much attention to it. That's why there is a verse. I last time also one of these lectures I said I couldn't find that there is a verse saying that we shouldn't be too much attached or concerned to anyone or anything in this world, because if we are, then it will cause more pain. So the whole point is to get out of that attachment, and by devotional service one is automatically situated in that servitude to Krishna and the understanding that I am a soul, part and parcel of Krishna. I am not this body, and therefore nothing that is so-called attached to this body is mine. So therefore I shouldn't be too much concerned about anything in this world. The concern that a devotee has for others is on the platform of the soul. That is different. We're talking about bodily concern. We should not have. So then, more than half of the problems are completely solved. And the remaining so-called problems that come, they will be actually impetuses for the growth of the devotee. When, Srila Prabhupada, I think we all did that lecture on that song of Prabhupada. When he was in Vrindavan, he wrote a song. And there he says, all that is left from my family life is just a list of names. There's nothing more. That means that realization where I worked so hard and put in so much affection, so much, anxiety, sweat, blood and tears to raise my family, and I did so much hard work, traveled and built businesses, and now at the end of the day, all that is left from that family is a list of names. Nothing is left anymore. Now that looks like a hopeless situation, but actually an ordinary person might go into depression, but a spiritually elevated person will take it as the perfect opportunity, or he takes it in the right way. So what would have caused depression for a materialist is a cause of great impetus for the spiritualist. So he understands that actually it is not worth, investing that much time and effort and feelings into this materialistic life. He understands that, and he sees it even more. It encourages him to go more closer to Krishna, because with Krishna these things won't happen. Whatever relationship you want to cultivate with anyone, do it with Krishna. Then you will not be disappointed. With anyone else in this material world, we are bound to be disappointed. We are bound to be disappointed. No doubt about it. So when the Maya shows her naked form, then it is all very, hopeless. It's only because it's packaged in a nice, it's advertised as if it's something good, and therefore everybody goes after it. But if one is fortunate, Krishna will show him the naked form of the material world. So then his Śraddhā will increase in Krishna. Whereas if we are too attached to material life, then our Śraddhā in Krishna will reduce. We won't have that much faith in Krishna. So, that is Śraddhā. So this is the only qualification. Now you may say, who will have this kind of qualification? No, in the beginning, Ādo Śraddhā, that Śraddhā is not as strong Śraddhā. When one comes to Nishtha, that is when it is strong Śraddhā. It is quite solid Śraddhā. And after that, it only intensifies. But until Nishtha platform, the Śraddhā can be, depending on our anarthas, because of our, vasanas, that means previous, material habits and tendencies. But when one comes to Śraddhā, that's it. His faith is absolutely rock solid. Nishtha platform. Ādo Śraddhā, the beginning Śraddhā, is a preliminary faith. Okay, this is something good. Like for example, Prabhupada went and chanted in the park, and people found it good, found it nice, and they did not have much faith, but they heard from a pure devotee, and it purified them, and people started coming to the classes, lectures, the prasadam. So these things, and then the way Srila Prabhupada handled them and took care of them, they slowly got more and more. The Śraddhā, the faith became more and more increased and solidified. And then they took initiation, and they took they underwent the entire process, and then results manifested along the way. So at least that preliminary faith, if one has, he can start off. So going back, I have to go all the way again. Writings of past Acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The only qualification is faith, and faith means to have unflinching conviction in the glories and powers of the name. So this is top-notch faith. So in the beginning, with the preliminary feeble faith, one can start off, but it will be in nama parad. But the qualification to chant purely, unflinching conviction in the glories and powers of the name, that is the statement of the scriptures. If one does not have faith, a real Vaishnava will not give him instruction on the name. That is the behavior of a Vaishnava. For if the faithless man takes the name, he will simply offend it. For instance, if one casts pearls to the swine, they will simply grind them to dust. Or if one gives fine cloth to a monkey, he will tear it to pieces. If the faithless take the name, and they will kill themselves from their offences, and simultaneously he who gives the name to the faithless will lose all his devotional credits very quickly. Now this is quite, how to preach now. How to preach. So of course we try, and then we see how we evaluate the person, is envious or not. If he is not, then he can be, preached to. And I want to give some other reference that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. How Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that prior to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's advent, the Vaishnavas, they kept the holy name to themselves and they did not preach very widely because they saw the people were faithless. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur took all the pains to meet the faithless and convince them about the glories of the holy name. So that requires some extraordinary empowerment. And the empowerment comes from, following the order of the spiritual master. Now you may say, oh, I don't have any power, what can I do? It's only Prabhupada who can deliver others. Yes, it's Prabhupada who can deliver others, but as a disciple, it's our duty to repeat what Prabhupada says and then distribute his book. Then it will work. So, I will take you to that explanation of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Sometimes a faithless man, being envious, will beg the name from the Vaishnavas, but the Vaishnava should understand that he is a cheater and refuse to give him the name. So, what is this? Give him the name means what? They want Diksha. They want to be known as a disciple of a great Vaishnava, and they want to become a great Vaishnava. And they want to become like, Guru, and they have, with that they will have access to women, money. So they are envious actually, but they try to be humble and make a show of being humble and try to become a disciple of some great Vaishnava who is already famous, so that they will also be known as, I am a disciple of such and such Acharya. And then okay. Then he wants to initiate disciples and get money, get women. So these kinds of things. So sometimes a faithless man, being envious, will beg the name from the Vaishnavas, but the Vaishnavas should understand that he is a cheater and refuse to give him the name. To take faith in the name, one must give up the cheating mentality and desire for position and fame. Now you see, if you see Srila Prabhupada, he has given name, he has given Diksha, Harināma Diksha, to people who actually were, they were after position and fame, and that's how they wanted to become gurus, even when Prabhupada was there. There was a lot of uprisings, even when Srila Prabhupada was physically around. So in 1972 there was that thing, such a thing, and then in 1975, and of course 77 after Srila Prabhupada's departure. In fact, even before, already they were trying to poison him. These things are there. So, to take faith in the name, one must give up the cheating mentality and desire for position and fame. Now, what I am trying to say is, Prabhupada gave the holy name to all these kinds of people who are after position, fame, and all these things. So, did Prabhupada commit sinful activity? Now, Srila Prabhupada said in his own words, he said, I am prepared to go to hell for the service of Lord Caitanya. I want to. So, this is, sometimes a preacher, an empowered preacher, he transgresses this rule of not preaching to the faithless. Now, obviously, they were not completely qualified to receive the Harināma Diksha, because you see what happened. But like that, nobody is really qualified. Everybody has some, so one has to give him the chance. See, the Acharya's duty is to give him the method, and the person, sometimes even those people who have offended Srila Prabhupada, they also took it in good faith in the beginning, and later on the weeds came out. So in the beginning they were actually quite, faithful to Srila Prabhupada, and they achieved great things just by that faith. Like the 6 grihasthas, the 3 grihastha couples, they went from America to UK and London, and then immediately within months they were world famous. They were with the Beatles, and then they became world famous just within months. How did they get that power? When sannyasis from, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's mission, they could not preach in London, and here are 6 grahasthas, 3 men and 3 women, and they did it within months. Unflinching faith in the spiritual master. Yasya deve parabhaktir yatha deve tatha gurau tasya te kathitha hiyartha prakashante mahatmanah. What is that? Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatam aham vandhe shri gurum dinatarinam. So, by the mercy of the spiritual master, one can climb mountains. This is a very difficult thing to, preach outside India, but they did it. Unflinching faith. Unflinching faith does not mean immediate results also. Sometimes, like for example, Srila Prabhupada. He had unflinching faith in his spiritual master when he heard him in 1922 for the first time. And his success was visible only 1966. 44 years later. And that too, it was quite small at the time. By the time he was quite well known and people were noticing him was like 1967, 1970, around there, 1969 already. So you see, so that is the mercy of spiritual master. I mean, he is complete faith and surrender to the order of the spiritual master, and that solid faith. But still, it takes time. In India, he had zero success. Srila Prabhupada. Zero success in the sense he is always successful. It's not that success means how many disciples came. The thing, people were not interested. He was qualified. People were not interested. So he went to West, and then of course, but you see, they fell away. But that is not a fault of the Guru. I mean, he made every effort possible to train them up, and they were trained. I mean, to an extent, but they did not, take it in good faith. The other weeds of pratishtha, labha, puja, kutinati, nishiddhachar, all these came up, and that's why everything fell for them. So we have to learn that we may be faithful now, but if we are not careful, we can go anywhere. Maya is so expert to pull us away from Krishna. So sometimes a faithless man being envious will beg the name from the Vaishnavas, but the Vaishnavas should understand that he is a cheater and refuse to give him the name. To take faith in the name, one must give up the cheating mentality and the desire for position and fame. The cheater is thinking, by taking the name, I no longer have to fear committing sinful activities. By I can do whatever I want. Krishna will save me. So that is committing sin on the strength of the holy name. He will commit that offense, this faithful rascal. By becoming a Vaishnava, everyone will pay dandavats to me, and I can get all sorts of service from others. Whatever position I lost by my previous activities, material life, I can retrieve by chanting japa. By this process, I can become very happy in this world. This is the cheater's mentality. For qualification to the name, one must give up this attitude. So, if one comes to devotional service for these things, it will not last long. It will not last long. When one has come to have faith in the name, without effort, he will receive the name. You see, when one has come to have faith in the name, without effort he will receive the name. And by the name's influence he will cross the ocean of material existence. But as long as one does not have faith, one has no qualification or capability. Actually, in Sundar Gopāl Prabhu's life, he read the book. He started reading Srila Prabhupāda's books in 1975, and in 1976, 1 year later, in October, he decided, okay, I want to give my life to this person, Srila Prabhupada. Then immediately the letter came. He was preaching. He went to Malaysia, and he was doing book distribution with 2 other devotees, one Bhakta Gary and The other one was the other person, I forget the name. Prabhu keeps telling his name. So anyway, these two devotees, he and his brother, his younger brother also, and they were all going to this book distribution, and then they came back from Malaysia, and then at the doorstep was that letter in the envelope, and Prabhupada opened, and it was from USA. He was surprised, from USA. And then he opened, and then there was a letter asking him whether he wants to take initiation. He was so happy. He was so happy. And then the other two devotees also congratulated him. One of them is Bhakta Gary Embers, and the other one, I forgot. That person was an initiated devotee. So he did not even know what initiation was. He was asking, what is initiation? What happens when initiation? So at that time he just thought of surrendering, and then everything happened. And in our case, in my case also, I was not at his level. I did not read the book and then think that, okay, I will dedicate my life to Prabhupada. I did not think like that. I liked it. I read the book Bhagavad Gita once. I liked it very much. I was convinced that, okay, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That much at least I understood. Then there was a postcard which came to my house in India. Out of nowhere. I never tried anything, and it was a postcard to Singapore. And one thing after another, I ended up in Singapore, and then I came in contact with this temple. I was in Hyderabad, and this is in Singapore, like 4,000 kilometers at least, I think, away. And if I would have joined in Hyderabad, it would have been ISKCON, with all the gurus and all this thing. Krishna had a whole different plan, and then he brought me here, and then here I got trained. And here also, I was chanting 16 rounds and everything. Then Prabhu asked, do you want initiation? I said, if you think I'm qualified, then yeah, maybe. Then Prabhu, of course, on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, gave through the Ritvik system. So he gave the initiation, and I got the first and second initiation on the same day, on Gaura Purnima actually, 2006, on Gaura Purnima day. I think 16 years is going to be in 2 days' time. So Mahāprabhu also got initiated on the same day. Prem Bikash Prabhu and Ujjwal Prabhu, we four were initiated on that day. So when we are really wanting to surrender, then the thing will come. So, but that does not mean, oh, Krishna is giving me VIP access, so I am a VIP. No. If you think we are VIP, then we will become VIP. Very irritating person. We will be irritating to Krishna, we will be irritating to the devotees, and we will leave. We will commit offenses and leave. If you want to become VIP, very important person, then we will become very irritating person, very idiotic person, very intolerable person, all VIP. So those kind of VIP will become. So, and there will be a red carpet. Where? To hell. And the red is because of blood. So, we have to be careful even after getting initiation. It is just the beginning, as the word suggests, it's only the beginning. Initiation is not liberation. Initiation means beginning on the path of liberation. More than liberation actually. Krishna Prema. So, when one has come to have faith in the name, without effort he will receive the name, and by then, of course, now the other thing is, we may receive the Harināma Diksha, that is one thing. But if one has faith, then one will receive the name. That means, it also means the higher stage, which is the Śraddhā. When one has unflinching faith in the name, Śraddhā he can easily chant. When one doesn't have that faith, he will not chant in Śraddhā. Vaishnava Aparadh, Nama Aparadh he will be doing. And by the name's influence, he will cross the ocean of material existence. But as long as one does not have faith, one has no qualification or capability. One should give up desire for position in the material world and become humble, listening to the glories of the name from Scripture and Vaishnavas. if the Guru gives the name to a faithless man because of desire for wealth or material possessions, by that offense to the name, the Guru will go to hell. Now, just before that, one should give up the desire for position and become humble, listening to the glories of the name from Scripture and Vaishnavas. Now, here is a hint of how to come out of this offense of being faithless. Because when we are faithless, then we cannot really enter into the chanting of the holy name. So, by listening to the glories of the name from Scripture and Vaishnavas, the more we hear about it, the more our conviction grows. The more we hear material subjects, the more our conviction in the holy name wanes. Our conviction in the material aspects of life grows. We are not really rational beings. We are influenced by our association. Even the most rational person, if he associates wrongly, then he will get influenced by the wrong thoughts. So, we have to regularly, on a daily basis, associate with the scriptures and Vaishnavas. So, in the company of Vaishnavas, there will be discussion of scripture, and scripture is given by the spiritual master. Of course, it's by Krishna, but he makes it available for us, makes it understandable for us. And there is this, Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, there is a nice verse. Shamyat Shastra Vivadaya. I think recently some of our devotees shared in the WhatsApp groups and all, then Instagram also, then I saw that, wow, I never heard that verse. So it's Madhya 10.119. Beautiful verse. हेलोनुद्धृतखेदया विशदया प्रोन्मीलदामोदया सम्यच्छास्त्रविवादया रसदया चित्तार्पितोन्मादया शश्वद्भक्तिविनोदया समदया माधुर्यमर्यादया श्रीचैतन्यदयानिधे तव दया भूयादमन्दोदया. Here is beautiful verse. This Shamya Shastra Vivadaya. Mitigating the disagreements of revealed scriptures. See, Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, all the disagreements within the scriptures will be mitigated. In fact, he quoted like that, right? People when asked about demigod worship, he quoted a verse from Padma Puran that actually if you study all the Vedas, then you will see that Krishna is the supreme. So that verse is there, 20.145. Then he spoke to the Mayavadis. He spoke to the Sri Vaishnavas. He spoke to the Tattvavadis of Madhva Sampradaya. He spoke to the Buddhists. He spoke to the Muslims. He spoke to all kinds of people. He spoke to, he delivered even Jagai and Madhai and all kinds of sinners. So, Samyat Shastra Vivadaya. And when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was explaining in Mayavad philosophy, then he countered him and explained in a way without touching the 9 explanations of the Atmarama verse of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He explained in 61 ways. He presented the super excellence of devotional service. So, Samyat Shastra Vivadaya, and a follower of Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, he is also Samyat Shastra Vivadaya. Now, from the spiritual master, we get the scriptures. Of course, scriptures are Krishna's, but he presents it to us in a way in which all kinds of disagreements are completely, gone. Everything will be clear. Now, so many people are reading Bhagavad Gita without the guidance of a pure devotee. And what is happening to them? They're totally confused about the aim of life. And their actions and their so-called learning don't match. They are nowhere and have no standing in spiritual life, but they think they have. So many things are going on. But when one takes shelter of the bona fide spiritual master, under him when he studies, like Bhagavad Gita as it is, why it was so powerful? Because he was true to Krishna and Krishna's purpose. So, Shamyat Shastra Vivadaya. If we just present Krishna's perspective, then it won't be, there will be no disagreement. But because people have their own interpretations of it, scripture, that's why all these things come out. Vivada, arguments, disagreements. So, we will see the translation. O ocean of mercy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. O ocean of mercy. O ocean of mercy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Let there be an awakening of your auspicious mercy, which easily drives away all kinds of material lamentation by making everything pure and blissful. Indeed, your mercy awakens transcendental bliss and covers all material pleasures. By your auspicious mercy, quarrels and disagreements arising among different scriptures are vanquished. Your auspicious mercy pours forth transcendental mellows and thus causes the heart to jubilate. Your mercy, which is full of joy, always stimulates devotional service and glorifies conjugal love of God. May transcendental bliss be awakened within my heart by your causeless mercy. This is such a beautiful verse from the Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak. Who wrote this? Maybe one of you can help me out with this. Who wrote the Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak? If you see in this verse, there are daya. The word daya and the words ending with daya. Helo nudhita khedaya, vishadaya, pronmela damodaya. 3. In every line there are 3 daya. Shamyat shastra vivadaya, rasadaya, chittarpitonmadaya, shashvat bhakti vinodaya, samadaya, madhurya maryadaya, Shri Chaitanya daya nidhe tavadaya, bhuyada mandodaya. So daya, 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 3 times every line. 4 times 3, 12 times. Either daya or word ending with daya. How nicely composed. So beautiful. So beautiful. Just such a beautiful verse. I don't know how. I never heard of this. Never heard. Until the other day, one of our Bhaktins actually, she was posting on Instagram and I saw that. Oh, wow, what is this? And I just saw this verse. Wow, this is so beautiful. So, coming back, listening to the glories of the name from scripture and Vaishnavas. If the Guru gives the name to a faithless man because of desire for wealth or material possessions, by that offense to the name, the Guru will go to hell. If by misfortune or accident a Guru gives the name and instructions to a faithless person, he should have great fear. He should confess in front of a Vaishnava assembly and give up that disciple. If the Guru does not do this, by that offense he himself will become devoid of bhakti and will wander in illusion. Now, we have examples. Okay, Kavi Karnapur, yes. Wow. Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak is written by Kavi Karnapur. You know who is Kavi Karnapur? He is the 3rd son of Shivananda Sena, who also wrote the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika, if I am not wrong. The Gaura Ganodesha Deepika is a book in which all the personalities in the Chaitanya Leela, who they are in the Krishna Leela, like Haridas Thakur is actually a mixture or join of Brahma and Prahlad Maharaj. These things are also possible. And Ramananda Rai was incarnation of Arjuna and sometimes also Vishakha Devi. And of course Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha and Krishna, and Nityananda Prabhu is Balaram. So who in the Chaitanya Leela, what are their identities in Krishna Leela? So this book called Gaura Ganodesha Deepika is written by Kavi Karnapur, if I remember it rightly. So he is the third son of Shivananda Sena, whose chest was kicked by Nityananda Prabhu in that famous pastime of so-called anger of Nityananda Prabhu, the merciful anger of Nityananda Prabhu on Shivananda Sena. So it's a beautiful, beautiful verse. Now, if by misfortune or accident a guru gives the name and instructions to a faithless person, he should have great fear. He should confess in front of a Vaishnava assembly and give up that disciple. Now, the acharyas, they do speak in front of faithless people also, but they won't take them as disciples. But here it is said that even instructing them is not good. But this is the risk that the preachers take. Even Ramanujacharya's guru, who asked him not to reveal the holy name to anyone, was coming from this point. He was trying to say that you will go to hell if you give this name to others. But he went and he gave. And that mercy of Ramanujacharya purified so many people that who otherwise would have chanted it without, with all offenses. They were all delivered. So that preacher, he takes the risk. And you see, Jesus also was crucified for preaching. And every great devotee like Prahlad Maharaj, Haridas Thakur, every great devotee, he will undergo so much tribulations to only benefit, because paradukha dukhi. Although this much instruction is given, a real merciful Vaishnava, he will give regardless. But of course it is said that we a person who is not on that stage, he should avoid. And that is there in the purport of 11 to 46 Srimad Bhagavatam. I think we will go there also, because there are very nice instructions around this topic. So, if the guru does not do this, if by that offense he himself will become devoid of bhakti and will wander in illusion. Lord Chaitanya gave the order to give instruction in the name everywhere, but that means to give it to the faithful men, and by that perfection will be reached. One can produce faith by loud sankirtan. You see, this is the thing. One can produce faith by loud sankirtan. By chanting, it creates a conducive atmosphere. People will. That is the magic of the holy name. Even if people don't know the glories, this is the thing. They should be allowed to chant, but they should not be explained the glories of the holy name or something too much that they can digest, that they cannot digest. One can produce faith by loud sankirtan, and when the jiva attains faith, he will seek out a bona fide guru. From the guru, the faithful man will take the holy name and then easily achieve prema. When thieves, prostitutes and rogues are made to give up their sinful mentality, one can give them instructions on the holy name. See, when they give up their sinful mentality, that's why Prabhupada is saying, the whole initiation process is, if you follow this thing, if you give up all the sinful habits and chant the holy name, yes, you can be initiated. It's called Purascharya method. Purascharya means cleansing before taking initiation. So there has to be some standard. So that standard is set by this, following the 4 regulative principles and chanting Hare Krishna, 16 rounds minimum. So based on that evaluation and the promise of this prospective disciple, the guru initiates. But if after that the disciple goes away, then the disciple has broken the contract. It's not on the guru's part. You see. So when thieves, prostitutes and rogues are made to give up their sinful mentality, one can give them instructions on the holy name. In this way the name can be spread everywhere. Now, in this regard, there is a story of Haridas Thakur and the prostitute. The prostitute came to pull Haridas into sexual enjoyment, and he did not preach to her, he did not drive her away, he did not do anything. He just said, okay, you wait, let me finish my rounds. And he was just chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He was going on chanting like that, and he did not stop whole night until the daybreak. And she left, and again in the night then he said sorry when the daybreak came. When the sunrise happened, then he said, I'm sorry, I could not finish. This night you come. Second night she came, whole night again he was chanting. He said, sorry, this night definitely I am chanting full speed, I will be finished by the time you come, let's enjoy life. He told her like that, and then she came again he was chanting and chanting, and then by the end of the third night she became purified by hearing the chanting so much from a pure devotee. She completely became purified, and she fell at the feet of Haridas Thakur and said, I came with such a sinful desire, but you have purified me. I feel so bad that I have come with this kind of desire. So then he gave her the holy name. In the beginning he did not give her. He purified her first. Of course we cannot imitate Haridas Thakur. Prostitute is coming, okay, let me purify. You sit down, prostitute, you sit down, I will chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Please. So we have to get her, run away from there. In this way the name can be spread everywhere. If one does not take these precautions, being guilty of aparadh, one will go to hell. If the disciple commits offense, the guru has to suffer in his devotional progress. In this circumstance, both the guru and disciple will go to hell. In fact, sometimes Srila Prabhupada said, because there was an accident that happened and Prabhupada's leg was a bit injured in a car accident in 1971 or something around there, 72, I don't know. So one of the disciples asked, Prabhupada, why do you get ill, or why did you get this accident? Is it karma, or is it what is it? Srila Prabhupada said it is because of because of my rascal disciples who are not following. And it is not that Prabhupada was going to hell and suffering because of them, but Krishna sometimes gives a token punishment, not a punishment. Pure devotee actually cannot suffer at all, but by giving that incident, it is to instruct the disciples to follow strictly. It is Krishna's way of teaching the disciples of Srila Prabhupada to follow strictly and reminding them, you see, you are not following, you see, you have brought this upon your spiritual master, and if the spiritual master gets something like that, Krishna won't be pleased. Krishna will show his full wrath like that. So this is the mechanism Krishna employs to educate the ignorant disciples. So like that. But Srila Prabhupada did not give initiation to anybody and everybody. He only gave initiation to those who followed. So it's not that he just indiscriminately gave. Then yes, that would have been nonsense, right? What kind of movement is that? But he made due diligence on his part. But after that, they broke their promise. So what can be done? But of course, Srila Prabhupada said, I am prepared to go to hell for the service of Lord Chaitanya. If this causes me to go to hell, I am prepared. It's like Ramanujacharya. His guru said, I am giving you one mantra, very powerful mantra. If you chant this, you will go back to Vaikuntha, no more misery, no more rebirth. But if you give it to others, you will go to hell. Okay, thank you. What is the mantra? Om Namo Narayanaya. Oh, then he started chanting Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Narayanaya, Sri Sampradaya. So he went to the top of the tower, temple tower, and from there he shouted at the whole village, town. He shouted and asked everybody to come, assemble. What is that? Everybody asked, what is this? Why are you calling everybody? He said, "Oh, I have something very powerful with me. I want to give it to you all." "What is that?" "Oh, this is the holy name of the Lord, and if you chant, you will no more have rebirth. Om Namo Narayanaya." And then he gave it to everybody. Then his spiritual master was very, very upset when he heard that one of his disciples told him that, "Hey, this Ramanujacharya, you gave him mantra, he gave to everybody. Thousands, the whole city is now chanting Om Namo Narayana." Then spiritual master called Ramanuja, "What are you doing? Huh? You are an offender. You will go to hell, rot in hell. I told you not to give it to anybody. Why did you give?" "No, you said if anybody chants this, they will go back to Vaikuntha, and if you give it to others, you will go to hell. So let me go to hell for giving to others, and let them all go back to Vaikuntha. I am prepared to suffer. I cannot see them suffering." Then his guru understood his heart, and he fell at the feet of Ramanujacharya. So the preacher, he sometimes seemingly, takes risk of committing this offense in order to show mercy to the the conditioned souls. Now let's read. Okay, we have already come to the end, but we will read some additional material on this topic. In this circumstance, both the guru and the disciple go to hell. "O Lord Caitanya, being so merciful, you first gave faith to Jagai and Madhai, and you gave them the name. Then you gave them the name. So wonderful was your personality that you created faith in all men. The Vaishnavas should try to follow in your footsteps. Whoever takes pleasure in devotion to the feet of devotees will be decorated with this touchstone jewel of the holy name." So that is this chapter. Now, additional material on this. There is actually a little bit voluminous material on this. Let's see how much we can do. We need to do this. In the Bhagavad Gita itself, 3rd chapter, 26th verse, we have "Na buddhi bhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayed sarva karmani vidvan yuktah samacharan." So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. You see? We'll read the purport of this. "Vedaischa sarvairahameva vedyah." That is the end of all Vedic rituals. All rituals, all performances of sacrifices, and everything that is put into the Vedas, including all direction for material activities, are meant for understanding Krishna, who is the ultimate goal of life. But because the conditioned souls do not know anything beyond sense gratification, they study the Vedas to that end. So they think Vedas is to give us sense gratification in heavenly planets and all that. But through fruitive activities and sense gratification regulated by the Vedic rituals, one is gradually elevated to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a realized soul in Krishna consciousness should not disturb others in their activities or understanding, but he should act by showing how the results of all work can be dedicated to the service of Krishna. The learned Krishna conscious person may act in such a way that the ignorant person working for sense gratification may learn how to act and how to behave. Although the ignorant man is not to be disturbed in his activities, a slightly developed Krishna conscious person may directly be engaged in the service of the Lord without waiting for other Vedic formulas or formularies. For this fortunate man, there is no need to follow the Vedic rituals, because by direct Krishna consciousness one can have all the results one would otherwise derive from following one's prescribed duties. So, this is one instruction. Then 3.29, 3 verses later. "Prakriter guna sammudhaah sajjante guna karmasu tāna kritsna vido mandan kritsna vinna navichalayet." Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. Now here also is an instruction not to preach to the faithless people. Now, purport. Persons who are unknowledgeable falsely identify with gross material consciousness and are full of material designations. This body is a gift of the material nature, And one who is too much attached to the bodily consciousness is called Manda, or a lazy person without understanding of spirit soul. Before we go further, you see this word Manda? Lazy person without understanding of spirit soul. Now, we will come back here, but I want to show you this. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.10. Kali Yuga, all Manda. प्रायेणाल्पायुषः सभ्यः कलावस्मिन् युगे जनाः मन्दाः सुमन्दमतयो मन्दभाग्या हि उपद्रुताः. 3 times Manda. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. So everything is Manda, Manda, Manda. Now, if you notice that verse again, the last line of this verse about Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, it is saying Bhūyād amandodaya Shri Caitanya dayanidhe tavadaya Bhūyād amandodaya Amanda udaya, Amanda of good fortune. Manda bhagya means misfortune, unfortunate. Just now in that, you see, misguided, unlucky. This is Manda bhagya. You see? But Amanda mataya. So Amanda udaya, the awakening of good fortune. Let there be an awakening of all good fortune. Bhūyād amandodaya. You see? Amanda. So the Manda population of Chaitanya, Kali Yuga will become Amanda by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. See how nicely it is said. Now, so this body is a gift of the material nature, and one who is too much attached to the bodily consciousness is called Manda, or a lazy person without understanding of spirit soul. Ignorant men think of the body as the self. They accept bodily connections with others as kinsmanship. The land in which the body is obtained is their object of worship, and they consider the formalities of religious rituals to be ends in themselves. They don't see those as means to the end of devotional service, but they think that those are the ends in themselves. That is the end. Like, okay, I should go to heavenly planets and that's it. Social work, nationalism and altruism are some of the activities for such materially designated persons. Under the spell of such designations, they are always busy in the material field. For them, spiritual realization is a myth, and so they are not interested. Those who are enlightened in spiritual life, however, should not try to agitate such materially engrossed persons. Better to prosecute one's own spiritual activities silently. So, let's stop preaching. Is that the way? The Acharyas, the Parivrajaka Acharyas, the Goshthanandis, they disagree. They have, in fact, a very strong preaching method. They will oppose. I think we have read that before. I think I request the moderator if I can be sent that link to the article where Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that preaching in opposition is actually way more effective in Kali Yuga than preaching, just the positive aspect of the absolute truth. I think it's called I don't know. I think if you can find that, if you can give me that link through WhatsApp, then I can try to access it here. So, okay, in the meantime, let's read this. Under the spell of such designations, they are always busy in the material field. For them, spiritual realization is a myth, and so they are not interested. Those who are enlightened in spiritual life, however, should not try to agitate such materially engrossed persons. Better to prosecute one's own spiritual activities silently. Such bewildered persons may be engaged in such primary moral principles of life as non-violence and similar materially benevolent work. So, that is explained here. See, better one be silent. But Prahlad Maharaj is saying, what is that? Maunam charanti vijane naparartha nishthaha naitan vihaya kripanan vimuksha eko nanyat sharanyam. What is it? Nanyat sharanyam nanyat tvadasya sharanam brahmato nupashye. I cannot remain silent when the whole world is suffering because of not knowing you, oh Lord. So that is a preacher, paradukha dukhi. So he slightly transgresses this and he preaches. But he doesn't give everything to the faithless. He will create faith in them. He will create piety in them by chanting, by giving Krishna prasadam. And slowly, when the person is ready, then yes, he can be initiated. Men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord, because they understand the purpose of the Lord. What is the purpose of the Lord? The Lord wants everyone back home, back to Godhead. Now the Lord is saying here that leave them alone, don't preach to these people who are interested in material activities. But does actually Krishna want them to stay here and not come back home? No, that is not the purpose of the Lord. The Lord is saying that they would offend, let them not offend, let them stay here. And if they are interested, then preach to them. But the devotees, he said, are kinder than the Lord, because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Because the Lord really wants everybody to come back to Him. He doesn't like that we suffer here, anybody for that matter. So, understanding that purpose, they take all risk. Okay, I go to hell, never mind, I go to hell. I'll try to preach. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risks, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. Now, this is very, very important. This is the preacher's. So it's not exactly he transgresses, but seemingly he transgresses, but actually he understands the real purpose of the Lord. The Lord does not want them to make offenses. So he takes shelter of the Lord, and then he gives the holy name. And by the holy name they become pure enough to accept the philosophy and then everything else. Which are absolutely necessary for the human being. So this is here. Now, of course, we have the 440. Actually 332. ये त्वेतदभ्यसूयन्तो नानुतिष्ठन्ति मे मतं सर्वज्ञानविमूढांस्तान् विद्धि नष्टान् अचेतसः. But those who out of envy disregard these teachings and do not follow them are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. And those who are meager in faith, 440. Ajñascha Śraddhā dhānascha samshayatma vinashyati nāyam lokosti naparo nasukham samshayatmanah. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So for the doubting soul, for those who don't have Śraddhā, this is their destination. Now there is another instruction also, 1867. Idam tena tapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana na cha shushrusha vachyam na cha mam yobhyasuyati. This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in the devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. Now, Let me just take you to that part. Okay, this is actually, he says, Krishna here in these two verses, he says, and those who explain to the devotees, he is very dear to him. But among the non-devotees, he said, don't even preach. Now here, Śraddhāvān anasūyascha shrunuyād apiyo naraha sopi muktaha shubhālokan prapnuyāt punyakarmanam. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reactions and attains to the auspicious planets where the pious dwell. So in the 67th purport, you see in the purport, he is referring to the 67th verse where he said, don't preach to the faithless. In the 67th verse of this chapter, the Lord explicitly forbade the Gita's being spoken to those who are envious of the Lord. In other words, Bhagavad Gita is for the devotees only. But it so happens that sometimes a devotee of the Lord will hold open class, and in that class not all the students are expected to be devotees. Why do such persons hold open class? It is explained here that although not everyone is a devotee, still there are many men who are not envious of Krishna. They have faith in him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If such persons hear from a bona fide devotee about the Lord, the result is that they become at once free from all sinful reactions, and after that attain to the planetary system where all righteous persons are situated. Therefore, simply by hearing Bhagavad Gita, even a person who does not try to be a pure devotee attains the result of righteous activities. Thus, a pure devotee of the Lord gives everyone a chance to become free from all sinful reactions and to become a devotee of the Lord. So this is in the Bhagavad Gita. Now, I do not know if I have received that. I have not received it yet. It's, I don't know if any of you can help me with that. This article, it's called what is it called? I just keep forgetting. Where the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, preaching in the opposition is greater. I forgot the title of that small listing. I think trying to find you just look for Google the words Bhaktisiddhanta, glimpse, distant glimpse, absolute truth, opposition. You just search these words together. I think you will land on the article. I repeat, Bhaktisiddhanta, distant glimpse of the absolute truth, opposition, these words. Okay. Then we have, I want to show you 11 to 46. Yes. Srimad Bhagavatam. There is an interesting introduction. Yes. This is the one. Okay, let's see this. Oh, that becomes so small. The positive method by itself is not the most effective method of propaganda in a controversial age like the present. The negative method, which seeks to differentiate the truth from non-truth in all its forms, is even better calculated to convey the directly inconceivable significance of the Absolute. It is a necessity which cannot be conscientiously avoided by the dedicated preacher of the truth if he wants to be a loyal servant of Godhead. The method is sure to create an atmosphere of controversy in which it is quite easy to lose one's balance of judgment. But the ways of the deluding energy are so intricate that unless their mischievous nature is fully exposed, it is not possible for the soul in the conditioned state to avoid the snares spread by the enchantress for encompassing the ruin of her only two willing victims. It is a duty which shall be sacred to all who have been unable to attain even a distant glimpse of the Absolute. Now, I do not know if you understood all the English. We can unpack that, but I hope you get the idea. The negative method, which seeks to differentiate the truth from the non-truth in all its forms. So, it is sure to create an atmosphere of controversy. You see, that's what, in the Bhagavad Gita just now we saw that, don't disturb them. Na buddhi bhedam janayat. But you see here, in Kali Yuga, that method will work. So, it's not that they're disobeying the Lord, actually they understand the purpose of the Lord. And they want to take the risk to preach. Now, let's Srimad Bhagavatam 11. This purport, I actually came in touch with it only like few days ago. I never really read this purport, but it's a very, very instructive purport. It's a very common verse. Ishvareta dadhineshu balisheshu dvishatsucha prema maitri kripopeksha yah karoti samadhyamah. This is the second class devotee. An intermediate or second class devotee called Madhyama Adhikari offers his love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is a sincere friend to all the devotees of the Lord, shows mercy to ignorant people who are innocent, and disregards those who are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And regarding this disregarding the envious, there is very elaborate explanation in this purport. So Jiva Goswami is quoting and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is commenting. So let's see this. It's quite a long purport actually. Okay. According to Bhagavad Gita, every living entity within the material world is eternally a minute fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because of the influence of Maya, the puffed up conditioned souls become inimical to the service of the Lord and the Lord's devotees, choose leaders among the materialistic sense gratifiers, and thus engage busily in a useless society of the cheaters and the cheated, a society of the blind leading the blind into a ditch. So that's this material world. Although the community of Vaishnavas is sincerely eager to serve the conditioned souls by bringing them back to their constitutional position, by Maya's influence, the materialistic living entity becomes hard-hearted and rejects the mercy of the Lord's devotees. According to Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, although a second-class devotee is eager to preach to the innocent conditioned souls, he should avoid the atheistic class of men, so that he will not become disturbed or polluted by their association. So there's two ways here. Two-way problem. One thing is we may offend, the atheist may get agitated and offend the holy name of the Lord and Lord even more. And therefore, we should not allow him to offend more, thereby becoming facilitators of such offense. That is one point. The other point is we may become, in confronting the atheistic class, if we are not strong enough, then we may get even pulled into their argument, and then we may accept at least even some of it. See? So that all this is dangerous. Śrīla Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has confirmed that a Vaishnava should be indifferent to those who are envious of the Supreme Lord. It is practically seen that when such persons are informed of the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they attempt to ridicule the Supreme Lord, thus further deteriorating their polluted existence. In this connection, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has quoted the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10:2-36. Girayo mumuchustoyam kvachinna mumuchuh shivam yatha jnanamritam kale jnanino dadate nava. Sometimes in autumn, the water falls down from the tops of the hills to supply clean water, and sometimes the water stops. Similarly, sometimes great saintly persons distribute clear knowledge, and sometimes they are silent. Now, why are they silent? So, this is explained here. In this regard, Srila Jiva Goswami has mentioned that although the first-class devotee of the Lord may at times exhibit apparent hatred toward the demons because of entering the mood of the Lord's pastimes, the intermediate devotee should avoid such feelings. The advanced devotee, he may have hatred towards, he may not have hatred, he may exhibit the hatred towards demons, as Narasimhadev, for example, exhibited his hatred towards Hiranyakashipu, but actually he delivered him. How would somebody deliver someone from material existence if he hates him? No, right? One will wish the worst thing for his enemy, isn't it? But he gave him liberation. So does he really hate him? No. But his hatred was because he is the mood of the pastime of the Lord, and it is because a pure devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, was offended. So even if a devotee shows anger towards such persons, it will be ultimately beneficial, just like the Supreme Lord's anger is beneficial towards demons. For example, Narad Muni cursed Nalagovar and Manigriva, but you see that curse became a blessing, just like the killing of Hiranyakashipu. See, this Hiranyakashipu wanted immortal life, and he prayed to Brahma to get it, and he did not get it. He just got a fake version of it, and he thought he got it, and then finally the Lord actually gave it to him, eternal life, by killing him. So the Lord is so merciful. The Lord actually gave it to him, but in a different way. You see? So his anger was actually a blessing in that sense. Similarly, Narad Muni's anger turned out to be a blessing. And not only can their anger be a blessing to someone, but another person's anger towards them can also become a blessing. They will take it as a blessing. Parikshit Maharaj, the Brahmana boy, he cursed him out of anger. He could have easily counteracted the curse, and he could have easily nullified it. Because Parikshit Maharaj is way more qualified than that boy. But he did not. He just took it as a blessing. And not only it was a blessing for him, he made this Shukadeva Goswami speak the Bhagavatam, and that was repeated again by Shaunaka Rishi Sutta Goswami to Shaunaka Rishi and the sages at Naimisharanya, and it was recorded by Vyasadeva. And we all are today reaping the benefits. How much blessing he made it, that curse. This is Vaishnava. Vaishnava, there is no inauspiciousness at all. Whatever comes to him, it becomes auspicious. Whatever he gives, it will become auspicious. That is Vaishnava. So, in this regard, Srila Jiva Goswami has mentioned that although the first-class devotee of the Lord may at times exhibit apparent hatred toward the demons because of entering the mood of the Lord's pastimes, the intermediate devotees should avoid such feelings. Furthermore, the intermediate devotee should not in any way associate with the powerful atheistic class of men, because there is danger that his mind will become bewildered by such association. So, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, if a Vaishnava preacher encounters one who is envious of him, the preacher should remain far away from such an envious person. But the Vaishnava preacher may meditate upon ways to save the envious class of men, but he should not directly, argue with an envious class of men. But he must think of ways how to save these people, and make plans, approach in a different way. Such meditation is called sadachar or saintly behavior. Srila Jiva Goswami has mentioned Prahlad Maharaj as an example of a saintly person. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 7.9.43, there is the following statement by Prahlad. Naivo dvije paraduratya vaitaranyas Tvadvirya gayanamaham ritamagna chittaha Shoche tato vimukha chetasa indriyartha Maya sukhaya bharamudvahato vimudhan. O best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence. For wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in thought of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. So this is Prahlad Maharaj. Although a Vaishnava preacher constantly meditates on the welfare of all living entities, he will not associate with those who are unreceptive to the message of the Supreme Lord Krishna. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states that even Bharat Maharaj, Vyasadeva and Shukadeva Goswami do not exhibit their mercy indiscriminately. They, like Jada Bharat, you see, he was very, very silent. He did not instruct anyone. Only he later on, much later in his life, he instructed King Rahugana. And that's when his glories were known. But until then, he was like a dull, dumb stone. He did not preach, he became silent. And Shukadeva Goswami does not speak to anyone. He was just going and walking and walking. He was not speaking to anyone. To Parikshit Maharaj, he started speaking. Vyasadeva also, not to everyone. But Chaitanya, this is the difference. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave it to everyone. Of course, he gave the holy name. He did not really preach. He preached to those who are, for example, he preached to the Muslims, the Yavanas. He preached to them, although they were considered faithless. And Mayavadis, he spoke to complete atheists. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Prakashananda Saraswati, even that Keshav Bharati. I mean, he spoke to stalwart atheists, but he converted them. The power of a great, of course, he is Krishna himself, but even a great Vaishnava Acharya, Shamyat Shastra Vivadaya, he will mitigate all the disagreements of the scriptures and then he presents the conclusive truth. And not only he presents, he will make millions of people follow that conclusive path of Bhakti Yuga. But you see, we have sages who sometimes speak. Like you see, 7 days, 7 nights, continuously Shukadeva Goswami was speaking. But not all the time he speaks. They do not exhibit their mercy indiscriminately because they follow this thing. But they want to always preach. They want to reach out somehow or other, attract their attention. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given an elaborate explanation to prove that the discrimination employed by a Madhyama Adhikari preacher does not at all show a lack of mercy. He states that upeksha or neglect, as mentioned in this verse, is the proper medicine for those who are inimical to the Supreme Lord and His devotees. Indifference from the preacher checks feelings of hostility on both sides. It is not only that the envious person creates offenses, but we also become agitated and our balance is removed. But you see, the same Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, sometimes one's balance of judgment may be, it is quite easy to lose one's balance of judgment. But the ways of this method of opposing the opposition, opposing the materialistic viewpoints, he still thinks it is necessary. And of course, he is a pure devotee, he can execute it. But if we follow such pure devotee, we should also go. Preaching means we have to face all kinds of opposition. Otherwise, it's not preaching. When Prabhupada heard that people were complaining around the temple, the neighbors were complaining that there is so much noise, Prabhupada was very happy. Now they are hearing Kirtan. Good. At least they are hearing. Our mission is successful. So that is how Prabhupada saw it. You see? So it is to check feelings of hostility on both sides. Although there is a Vedic injunction that one should cut the tongue, there is a Vedic injunction that one should cut out the tongue of a person who offends the Supreme Lord and His devotee. In this age, it is best simply to avoid potential offenders and thus prevent them from committing further sinful activities against the Vaishnavas. Where is that verse where one should cut the tongue? 4:17. कर्णौ पिधाय निरयाद् यदकल्प ईशे धर्मावितर्य सृणिभिर्निर्भिरस्य माने छिन्द्यात् प्रसह्य रुशतीम् असतीं प्रभुश्चेत् जिह्वामसूनपि ततो विसृजेत् स धर्मः. Jihvāmasūnapi. Sati continued. This is the wife of Lord Shiva, She is saying this. If one hears an irresponsible person blaspheme the master and controller of religion, one should block his ears and go away if unable to punish him. But if one is able to kill him, then one should by force cut out that blasphemer's tongue and kill the offender, and after that one should give up his own life. This is not some lightweight stuff, you see. But in Kali Yuga, we cannot follow all these things. So, therefore it is said here by who? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Although there is a Vedic injunction that one should cut out the tongue of a person who offends the Supreme Lord and his devotees, in this age it is simply best. It is best simply to avoid potential offenders and thus prevent them from committing further sinful activities against the Vaishnavas. It is the duty of a Vaishnava preacher to point out the futility of any process besides surrendering to the Supreme Lord. An envious person, however, will resent such strong preaching by a Vaishnava and disrespect him, considering the devotee to be unnecessarily criticizing others. Such a person who cannot appreciate the mercy of Vaishnavas should be neglected. Otherwise, according to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his cheating mentality will increase day by day. So we have also some people who are extremely envious towards the devotees. So the best way to deal with that person is to just neglect, completely neglect. That is the only way we can do her some good. You see? Because there's no point. We will get agitated. She will like agitation, and So some rascals are always there like that. So we have to just move on and just completely neglect. They're not important. They're not important at all. They think they're important. So we just have to neglect them. That's the best medicine you can give them. Those who are not attracted to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu and who disrespect the faithful servants of Lord Caitanya. See, those who are not attracted to the Sankirtan movement of Caitanya Mahāprabhu and who disrespect the faithful servants of Lord Caitanya, considering their strong statements about the Sankirtan movement to be obstacles to their own worship of the Lord, will never be able to fix their minds on Krishna, but will gradually fall down from the path of devotion by confusing the external activities of the material world with the actual worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Such bewilderment has been expressed by the words Bhayam Dvitya Bhiniveshatah Syat. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has strongly rejected those foolish persons who, under a plea of mercy and equal vision, perceive that a faithless person is also a devotee of the Supreme Lord and who thus try to thrust the Harināma or holy name of God upon such offensive people. So of course preaching is one thing, but the holy name, preaching about the glories of the holy name to them, that is not required. But we must cut their misconceptions in philosophy. That we must do. But the holy name, when they are ready they can understand. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has stated, when childish people think themselves Mahabhagavatas and act in defiance of the Vaishnava spiritual master, such behavior simply holds them back from receiving the mercy of the Vaishnava Guru. Bewildered by false ego, these self-proclaimed devotees gradually become fit to be ignored by pure devotees. We are in an era where these kinds of so-called devotees are in, there's so many. Especially ISKCON has become a bunch of this. So much politics and all. They're not even pure devotees. Come on. They also know that. But they think that, Guru doesn't have to be a pure devotee. This is their stupidity. So, bewildered by false ego, these self-proclaimed devotees gradually become fit to be ignored by pure devotees. So, we have to ignore them. Of course, we point out the faults, that's one thing. They actually will become a non-entity themselves, by themselves. Become fit to be ignored by pure devotees on the intermediate platform and are cheated of the mercy that comes from the devotee's satisfaction. Thus, they become asadhu by constantly committing offences against the devotees who preach the holy name of Krishna. Pure devotees, therefore, in all circumstances display indifference to those who falsely imagine themselves to be Vishuddha Bhaktas or pure devotees of the Lord. This indifference is an excellent manifestation of their mercy. In other words, those who criticize the Vaishnava preachers on the second class platform for discriminating between those who are fit to receive the Lord's mercy and those who are simply envious are misunderstanding the mission of the Lord. Lord Krishna himself states in Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I advent myself millennium after millennium. Even such a great Vaishnava as Sukadeva Goswami, one of the 12 Mahajans in this universe, expressed his contempt for the evil Kamsa. Srila Jiva Goswami has pointed out that even though the Mahabhagavad devotee may act on the second class platform of preaching, his rejection of the envious living entities does not obstruct his vision of the Lord as all-pervading. Now, he will reject the first class devotee may descend to the second class platform to preach. It does not mean that he became a second class devotee now. He is still a first class devotee, but he is acting on the second class platform to preach. Now, in that platform, he has to distinguish, So that is not Samadarshana, right? But no, here it is. Jiva Goswami has particularly said that does not obstruct his vision of the Lord as all-pervading and his sense of equality. That doesn't disturb his vision because he is still in the Mahabhagavad stage, but he acts on the second class platform. Rather, when a first class devotee or even a second class devotee rejects the atheistic class of men, he is expressing the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vinashaya dushkritam. Of course, Krishna Vinashaya, he will actually destroy. For us, we just neglect. See, he is expressing the mission of the Lord by neglecting. A first class or second class Vaishnava never actually becomes envious of another living entity. That means if a so-called Vaishnava is envious of somebody, third class Vaishnava or even not a Vaishnava even. So a first class or second class Vaishnava never actually becomes envious of another living entity, but out of intense love for the Supreme Lord, he becomes angry when the Lord is offended. Also, understanding the Lord's mission. So it is not that a great devotee does not get angry. He gets angry like fire if another devotee is offended. People don't understand this. Even so-called devotees sometimes don't understand. They think, this is all gangsterism or something like that. Idiots. I mean, they're all idiots in the name of devotees. That's why they cannot understand. Then Chaitanya Mahāprabhu is a gangster, is it? He came with Sudarshan Chakra to kill Jagan Mata. Is he a gangster? I mean, they have no brains to understand the holy name or the mercy of the pure devotee, the mercy of Krishna. Nothing. They have no brains to understand Krishna consciousness. That means they have no mercy of Krishna. Dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mam upayanti te tesham satate yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam. So he gives them understanding by which one can come to him. So when Krishna gives a person understanding of the philosophy and Krishna consciousness and everything, the realizations, you can understand that he has the mercy of Krishna. When you see that a person cannot understand, and he is behaving opposite to the way a Vaishnava should behave, you can understand that Krishna has no mercy on this person. He or she did not receive the mercy of Krishna. You can see that. I mean, it takes a proper devotee to see this. Also, understanding the Lord's mission, he discriminates according to the position of a particular living entity. To consider such a Vaishnava preacher an ordinary envious person or to consider him sectarian because of his proclamation of pure devotional service as the most exalted of all methods of spiritual advancement reflects a materialistic vision called Vaishnava Jati Buddhi or Gurushu Naramati. So, we have to say that only Krishna consciousness is the medicine for this world. Everything else is a nonsense. We have to boldly say that. yoga, all these things are rubbish nonsense. They will not help. They will not help. Yeah? So, people may not like, but we have to preach like that. See? Such an offense drags the offender down to a hellish condition of life by the laws of nature. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, although a Mahabhagavat sees every living entity as a pure spirit soul, such a Mahabhagavat still experiences special ecstasies and other symptoms upon meeting another Vaishnava. This is not contradictory to his vision as a topmost devotee. Rather, it is a symptom of his love for Krishna. So, in other words, what is being said here is that a Mahabhagavat, when he is preaching, by coming down to the Parivrajaka or second class platform, he expresses seeming neglect or hatred towards the non-devotee, especially envious class of men, and he shows seeming favoritism to the devotees. He likes to be, he's overjoyed in the company of devotees. Now, this is not partial behavior or, oh, this person is not seeing everybody equal. No, it is not that. But in neglecting or getting angry with the atheistic class of men, he is expressing the mission of the Lord, and that too out of love for the Lord. And by becoming happy in the company of devotees, he is also expressing his love for the Lord, because he is happy to be in the company of those who are servants of the Lord. So it looks again a behavior which is not samadarshina or not equal to everybody, but it is actually not so. It is, he still experiences the equality, and the love of Krishna is what drives him. So that is where a devotee comes from. So sometimes, third class devotees, they cannot understand this and they criticize the second class devotees. That is stated in the next purport. A pure devotee sees every living entity as part and parcel of Krishna, and therefore expresses his love for Krishna through love for all the expansions and creations of Krishna. Still, such a Mahabhagavat feels special ecstatic love upon seeing another living entity directly pleasing the senses of the Supreme Lord. Such feelings are manifest in the statement of Lord Shiva to the Prachetas. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.11, Srila Sukadeva Goswami is mentioned as Nityam Vishnu Jana Priyaha, very dear to the devotees. A pure devotee does not foolishly pretend equal vision and approach envious persons. Rather, he respects the mission of the Lord as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatha mam prapadyanti tam sathaiva bhajamyaham. So, according to one's surrender, he will be reciprocated by the Lord. So, the devotee also does the same thing, but he tries to bring the atheistic class to the theistic. On the other hand, if it is the Lord's desire, I am not reading the full thing, obviously. You go and read, because it's quite a long purport, and I want to show another thing also still. On the other hand, if it is the Lord's desire, a pure devotee can offer his respects to all living beings. For example, Srila Jiva Goswami mentions that Uddhava and other pure devotees of the Lord were always prepared to offer respectful obeisances even to such persons as Duryodhan. Madhyama Adhikaris, however, should not imitate such Uttama Adhikari behavior. In this connection, the distinction between Madhyama Adhikari and Uttama Adhikari is stated by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as follows. Atra sarva bhuteshu bhagavad darshana yogyatayasya kadachitapi na drishta. A Madhyama Adhikari cannot at any time perceive the presence of the Supreme Lord within all living beings, whereas an Uttama Adhikari, however, he acts on the second class platform to carry out the Lord's mission. He is aware that every living entity is ultimately a forgetful Krishna conscious living entity. Therefore, although a devotee may externally engage 4 different types of behavior as mentioned in this verse, namely worship of the Lord, friendship with devotees, preaching to the innocent, and rejection of the demons, he is not necessarily on the second class platform, since an Uttama Adhikari also may exhibit these symptoms to carry out the Lord's mission. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions that it is the duty of the Madhyama Adhikari to extend himself as the right hand of the Uttama Adhikari, vowing to work for the benefit of others and offering to help in distributing love of Krishna. So the Madhyama Adhikari should be an assistant to the Uttama Adhikari. So we as members of this movement, we should raise ourselves to the Madhyamadhikari level and be worthy. We have to be proper assistants to Srila Prabhupada. We cannot be third class devotee and assistant to Prabhupada. We will ruin the movement of Prabhupada, and that's what happened until now. So-called ISKCON gurus, all third class, and they ruined the movement. You see, so we cannot become a servant of the Guru if we remain on the third class platform. We can only become a proper servant of the Guru if we come to second class platform, and we have to be a right hand of the Uttamadhikari. That means we have to be a trusted servant of the Uttamadhikari devotee, vowing to work for the benefit of others and offering to help in distributing love of Krishna. Finally, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given a nice explanation of the difference between Archana and Bhajana. Okay, let's read this part. Archana refers to the platform of sadhana bhakti in which one serves the Lord to carry out the rules and regulations of the process. One who has achieved the shelter of the Lord's holy name and is totally engaged in the attempt to serve the Lord should be considered to be on the platform of bhajana. Even though his external activities may sometimes be less strict than those of the neophyte engaged in archana. This apparent lack of strictness, however, refers to laxity not in the basic principles of sane behavior and renunciation of sense gratification, but rather in the details of Vaishnava ceremonies. So, this is a little bit of a different topic, but it is not exactly in line with our topic under today's topic of discussion. Now, I would like to take you. Okay, you know what? Next purport also is important. We will read that also. 10 o'clock already. Today's session is a bit long. Archayameva Hare Pujamya Śraddhaye Hate Natad Bhakteshu Chanyeshu Sabhaktah Prakritah Smritah. A devotee who faithfully engages in the service of the deity in temple but does not behave properly toward other devotees or people in general is called a Prakrita Bhakta, a materialistic devotee, and is considered to be in the lowest position. Now, you can read this purport on your own maybe, but I want to just point out a particular passage. Third class. It's a problem with third class devotees. Srila Madhvacharya states, Archayam eva samsthitam Vishnum jnatva tad anyatra naiva janati yah puman. A Kanishta Adhikari has no idea that the Supreme Lord has the power to exist outside a church or temple. Furthermore, being puffed up by his own ceremonial worship, Atmano Bhakti Darpataha, a Kanishta Adhikari cannot imagine that anyone is more pious or religious than he, and he is not even aware that other devotees are more advanced. Thus, he cannot understand the Madhyama or Uttama standard of devotional service, and sometimes because of his false pride, he criticizes the more advanced devotees of the Lord, neglects them, or simply has no understanding of their exalted position as preachers or completely self-realized souls. Another symptom of the Kanishta Adhikari is that he is infatuated by the material qualifications of the so-called great materialistic persons. Having a bodily concept of life himself, he is attracted by material opulence and thus minimizes the position of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Such a Kanishta Adhikari, therefore, is disturbed if a second-class devotee criticizes the non-devotees of the Lord. You see, this is the point. Such a Kanishta Adhikari is disturbed if a second-class devotee criticizes the non-devotees of the Lord. In the name of compassion or kindness, a Kanishta Adhikari approves of the non-devotional activities of such materialistic men. Apparently, 326 and 329 kind of Krishna is telling that, don't, agitate those who are engaged in materialistic activities, right? Bhagavad Gita 3.26 and 29. So, Kanishta Adhikari thinks he is following those instructions strictly. But actually, he is not interested in others' welfare. In the name of compassion or kindness, a Kanishta Adhikari approves of the non-devotional activities of such materialistic men. Because the Kanishta Adhikari is ignorant of the higher realms of devotional service and the unlimited transcendental bliss of Krishna consciousness, he sees devotional service merely as a religious aspect of life, but thinks that life has many enjoyable and worthwhile non-devotional aspects. Therefore, he becomes angry when second-class devotees who are experienced that Krishna is everything criticize the non-devotees. Madhvacharya states that such a person, because of his rudimentary faith in Krishna, is considered a devotee, but he is bhakta adhama, a devotee on the lowest standard. If such materialistic devotees follow the rules and regulations of deity worship, they will gradually be elevated to a higher standard and eventually become pure devotees of the Lord, unless they commit offences against other devotees, in which case their advancement will be checked. Srila Madhvacharya states, Tad bhaktanam upekshakah kuryur vishnav api dvesham. Those who neglect or show indifference to the devotees of the Lord are to be considered offenders at the lotus feet of Vishnu. Similarly, those who disrespect the demigods will become bereft of devotional service and be forced to rotate again and again within the samsara, the cycle of birth and death. So this is here. Now, the final piece. I want to show you Bhakti Vinod Vani Vaibhav. This is the teachings of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. In introduction, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote, this is the son of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, we avail of the opportunity offered by the anniversary celebrations of the advent of Thakur Bhakti Vinod to reflect on the right method of obtaining those benefits that have been made accessible to humanity by the grace of this great devotee of Krishna. Thakur Bhakti Vinod has been specifically kind to those unfortunate persons who are engrossed in mental speculation of all kinds. This is the prevalent malady of the present age. The other acharyas who appeared before Thakur Bhakti Vinod did not address their discourses so directly to the empiric thinkers. They had been more merciful to those who are naturally disposed to listen to discourses on the Absolute without being dissuaded by the spurious arguments of avowed opponents of Godhead. See, the important point here, did you notice that? The acharyas before Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they only spoke to those who would naturally, be devotionally inclined and would want to listen. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually met with the spurious arguments of those who are against, avowed opponents of Godhead. That means they are absolute atheists. So he wanted to change their mind also. So that's, it takes extreme power to do this. Srila Thakur Bhaktivinoda has taken the trouble of meeting the perverse arguments of mental speculators by the superior transcendental logic of the Absolute Truth. He has taken the trouble of meeting the perverse arguments of mental speculators. See, this is opposition in opposition, directly countering their arguments. It is thus possible for the average modern readers to profit by the perusal of his writings. That day is not far distant when the priceless volumes penned by Thakur Bhaktivinoda will be reverently translated by the recipients of his grace into all the languages of the world. Now, this is prediction of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that soon Bhaktivinoda Thakur's work will be translated in all the languages of the world. And you see, today we are in different countries coming together discussing Bhaktivinoda Thakur's works. Look at that. The writings of Thakur Bhaktivinoda provide the golden bridge by which the mental speculators can safely cross the raging waters of fruitless empiric controversies that trouble the peace of those who choose to trust in their guidance for finding the truth. So people, they want to trust. What they want to trust? The fruitless empiric philosophies. They want to trust such philosophies in, they think that such philosophy will be the guidance for them in finding the truth. But they are fruitless and they are like the raging waters. And another place, there is another verse like that. Adi 2:1. You know what is raging waters? You should probably watch a video maybe of a storm in the ocean. You know what is raging waters. Shri Chaitanya Prabhum Mande Balopi Yad Anugrahat Taren Nana Matagraha Vyaptam Siddhanta Sagaram. I offer my obeisances to Shri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, by whose mercy even an ignorant child can swim across the ocean of conclusive truth which is full of the crocodiles of various theories. So not only raging waters, but crocodiles waiting to grab and mince us to pieces. So, but the writings of Thakur Bhaktivinoda provide the golden bridge. So he is actually addressing their arguments and then bringing them all over to the path of bhakti. That's why it's the bridge. As soon as a sympathetic reader is in a position to appreciate the sterling quality of Thakur Bhaktivinoda's philosophy, the entire vista of the revealed literatures of the world will automatically open out to his reclaimed vision. So that is what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So how he was a pioneer in opposing all these apasiddhantas and established the true philosophy. In fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a book called, I think, Kṛṣṇa Samhita, I think, in which he defeats every philosophy in the world, point for point, in utmost detail, unimaginable detail. Every single point of every philosophy he defeats and presents Krishna consciousness as the supreme philosophy. And he actually took so much trouble to travel everywhere and preach all this. And he also was against the Apasampradayas and all this, Aulas, Baulas, Sakhi Bekis, Gauranganagaris, all these Apasampradaya, pseudo Vaishnavas. Everything he was against. So, alright, so I think I will stop it there and address any questions if there are. This is the next chapter. So let's see any questions. Wait a second, I will just try to. So the question by Omkar Taware. Okay, this question actually is not relevant to today's topic. I think he wants to ask this in the AM session, but we have not been having for quite some time. Why souls who are in full knowledge come in material world even they know about material world? Madness caused by misuse of independence. Okay. Now this is that video, the impossible triangle conquered by Lord Caitanya. 1 minute video. It's a TikTok, also on Instagram. I mean, why we are in the material world, even we know about the material world. Misuse of independence, that's all. We are prone, we are not Achyuta, we are Achyuta. So, like you are not expected to commit a crime and go to jail. If you are imprisoned, then people will be surprised, right? How come he is in prison? He's a nice fellow. So you are not expected to go to jail, but there is possibility. If I want to go to jail, there is every possibility I can do that. I can do any stupid thing and I can go to jail in an instant. But I am expected not to do that. So similarly in the spiritual world, one is not expected to misuse his independence and like that, but he might misuse his independence, because after all it is independence. Like Jaya and Vijaya, they fall down because of some offense. So examples like that are there. then Vrajeshwari Mataji. I think these one second, I'm trying to okay, now it's easier to read. How about a devotee who develops faith in the beginning and takes initiation and later leaves the association? He who gives the name to the faithless will lose all his devotional credits very quickly. Then also, does this statement hold true? And how karma works for such a devotee? I mean, if he falls away, he will come back, whether in this life or next life. It depends on the extent of his offense. Then, depending on that, he will come back, but there will be a halt. There will be a hiatus, a long hiatus or a short hiatus, depending on the severity of the offense. So, but he will come back again. Whatever he has done in Krishna consciousness will not be lost. But the offense is quite grave. Unless he repents for that offense, he will not. So, of course, I mean, at the time of giving the holy name and Diksha, if the disciple agrees to follow, then if the spiritual master gives on that condition, then he is not implicated. But if that after that the disciple does not follow, the spiritual master is not to be blamed. He did not give it indiscriminately. He made sure that there is some standard before he gives the holy name and initiation and everything. But if we break the contract, then the disciple will suffer. Of course, the spiritual master also sometimes gets those token suffering so that the disciple will be reminded. But if he is blind enough to that, then he will have to take birth again, and contract is actually broken at that point. There's no contract between the guru and disciple at that point. But sometimes the merciful spiritual master, he may even return life after life to save that soul. So see, the thing is, the pure devotee, when he follows this injunction, he follows it to express he is a pure servant of the mission of the Lord. So he really understands the Lord's wish, and he is merciful even to such low class people. But if a second class devotee who is not that advanced, but who is a preacher, if he gets too embroiled in the arguments with the atheists or something like that, or trying to preach to them and losing one's cool there and all that. Of course, in the beginning things like that happen. Undoubtedly they will happen. Then he will have so much hostility and anger towards that person. Whereas a pure devotee is seeing differently. He has anger because he offended Krishna and all that, but he is still thinking of the welfare of that person. But a third class devotee, he cannot see like that. Even a second class devotee may kind of lose his cool, and he can forget that point. But a first class devotee, he always knows that person is a part and parcel of Krishna, and out of Maya he is talking nonsense, and therefore he shouts or he expresses anger to drive away the Maya out of that person and bring him to proper understanding. And that's the mercy of the devotee actually. Divya Mataji. Prabhuji, the way you explain Amalatmanam is very enlightening. Also, thank you for sharing the personal experiences of His Grace in the Gopāl Prabhu and your humble self. We are so pleased to hear about your initiation on Gaura Purnima. When we would just listen to all of your lectures, the bliss that we feel is inexplainable, that we won't experience by going to Grand ISKCON temple. Could you please explain us in detail between spiritual bliss which we get just by hearing, and material opulence, for example, Mayapur temple, the kingdom of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although you once said that the grandeur is to attract less intelligent people, how should I see the difference? Although I'm happy for the kingdom of Godhead, the prophecy of Nityananda Prabhu that came true, yet I don't know how to see the lack. Now, it's not material opulence of Mayapur. The main thing, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he, you are right actually, what you said is the bliss that one gets from hearing Krishna Katha is just out of this world. It's just so blissful. Now, a temple, yatra gayanti madbhakta, tatra tisthami narada. So, wherever the glorification of the Lord is there is the residence of Vishnu or Krishna. Now, if we construct a big temple, it's good, but one has to maintain the Shravan Kirtan process. Otherwise, the temple will become dead. And if those who are so-called participating in Shravan Kirtan, if they offend the Acharya who has given us the Shravan Kirtan process, the mercy will not flow, and therefore you may hear, recently, I was telling also in one of these classes, one of the ISKCON gurus, he was speaking on the Ritvik system of initiations, and the understanding of guru is so poor. It's just appalling how poor their understanding is on what is even a guru. That just shows that, I'll just show you a verse. That just shows the lack of mercy of Krishna. So where Krishna's mercy is, such place will be very pleasing. Now, especially for the devotees. Maybe not for the sense gratifiers, but for the devotees. मध्यलीला चैतन्य चरितामृत मध्यलीला 6.89 आचार्य कहे वस्तु विषय होय वस्तु ज्ञान वस्तु तत्व ज्ञान होय कृपाते प्रमाण. Gopinath Acharya, the son-in-law of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, at this point Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was not a devotee yet. Gopinath Acharya replied, knowledge of the summum bonum, the absolute truth, is the evidence of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. How do we know that the person has mercy of the Supreme Lord? The knowledge of the absolute truth. How much knowledge he has of the absolute truth. That is the indication of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. If one doesn't understand the things clearly, he is lacking in that mercy. This does not mean that one has to be a scholar. That's not what I am saying. But one can know the complete philosophy if he has the mercy. And how to get this mercy? By being humble and participating in the Shravan Kirtan process, taking to the process of the Acharya. If you don't participate in Shravan Kirtan, then we are not being humble, because we think we don't need to listen to Krishna Katha. Then just ruination will, await us. So if the Shravan Kirtan process is there, then any amount of grandeur will not feel like something not very spiritual. The spiritual aspect comes from the bhava of that place. How is everybody conducting themselves? What is the center? There are so many beautiful buildings in the world with beautiful architecture, but their bhava is not Krishna conscious. Similarly, if I build a beautiful building, but the bhava is not, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth site, and his greatest devotee, Srila Prabhupāda, who is the incarnation of the words of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prithivite Achujata Nagaradigram Sarvatra Prachar Hoive Moranam, and Prabhupada is the personification of those words. And if we offend that person, how much can you expect the mercy? Now, they are constructing for the Prabhupada's movement to take over. So eventually the real movement will survive and pervade the world. The impure movement will not last. Just like a branch that is broken off from a tree may resemble a branch for some time. The leaves may look as green as the leaves on the the branch which is connected to the tree, and everything looks just the same. In the matter of time, you will see the drying up of the branch that is broken. So we are seeing that now. We have been seeing that for quite some time. In fact, for those who are blind, yes, they cannot see. Now we are not here just criticizing, sitting down and criticizing. See, this is a very important thing we ourselves should not fall prey to. So while we must know that they are wrong from all philosophical understanding, not just just because I say they are wrong. No. We have full philosophical basis. They always say we are apasiddhantik and apasampradaya and all these things. They don't even know what they're talking about because they have never studied the evidence that we actually present. There is no equal in the entire world of the evidence that we as ISKM have provided to prove the authenticity of the Ritvik system of initiations of Srila Prabhupada. I can say that for sure. There is no other material in the world. So, and those videos are there. The whole playlist, maybe if it is shared, I can share that whole playlist link. You see, we have the interview with Sundar Gopāl Prabhu. We have what is that? We have actually many videos, and then we have the IS-77 paper, position paper, and then finally, we have that 5-part series, video series, extensive. 15 hours of content and philosophical content. Shastric content, and they say we don't have Shastra. Blind, what can I say? Even after that, we have found so many evidences. Even after that 15 hours of content, we have found here and there so much evidence, again pointing to the same thing. So knowledge of the summum bonum, the absolute truth, is the evidence of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And this is actually from this verse. I think the next verse. Is it not mentioned here? Okay, I'll take you. Actually, there is this verse by Brahma. He spoke. The mercy means one becomes knowledgeable about the absolute truth. 10, 14, 29. You should remember all these verses. अथापि ते देव पदाम्बुजद्वय प्रसादलेशानुगृहीत एव हि जानाति तत्त्वं भगवन् महिम्नो न चान्ये कोऽपि चिरं विचिन्वन्. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. See, one who has the mercy, he can understand knowledge. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. Those who have mercy. Oh, this is there. You see? Madhya 6.84. And this was 6.89 just now we saw. So this verse was quoted there. So question: If lost trust, is it better to keep distance to avoid further offense? In one way, yes. Do not commit offense, but the better way is to understand that there is a problem. Sometimes we think the problem, especially in the third class platform, is that we think the problem is with somebody else when we ourselves have a lot of problem. We think the whole world is a problem except me. So we have to actually be introspective. If the trust is lost, Like many people lost trust with us as well. They left us. They don't have trust in us. Because they wanted something else in their so-called devotional life. But I can vouch for the fact that we have never, done something that would, compromise the trust. But people may feel like that. So and people left the movement. So it is good they left in one way, that they don't commit further offenses. But if I am that person who have left because of trust lost, I should first evaluate myself. A third class person is inept at evaluating himself. He will always misevaluate. I mean, if there is such a word. He will have a wrong calculation of himself and others. He thinks he has no trust in others, they are not trustworthy. But maybe I am the one who is not trustworthy. So I should actually repent and I should pay obeisances. If somebody else is not trustworthy, then yes, we should like. But if somebody is, trustworthy, and if I see them as not trustworthy, first of all, I must talk to other Vaishnavas who can help me out in seeing whether what I am saying is even correct or not. Is this the right way to see? Is my judgment correct? So third class person, devotee, is not capable of judging others or himself even. He has a very high estimate of himself and very low estimate of others. The truth is just the opposite. He is actually low, the Vaishnavas are high. So we have to approach Guru Sadhu Shastra to understand this. The best thing is I must always be humble. And if a person is following Srila Prabhupada, even though he may have some defects or something, nobody is perfect, right? But if the if the intention is they want to follow Srila Prabhupada, and he is trying his best, so that has to be considered. There may be so many faults, but if one is trying to serve Srila Prabhupada, that one point is greater than anything else. He doesn't want to be a cheater. But so we have to always take the guidance of Sadhu, Shastra and Guru and confirm or get their opinion what I am seeing. That's why it is called, what is that, Priti Lakshanam? What is that? षड्विधा Priti Lakshanam. What is starting? Dadati pratigrahanati guhyamakhyaati prichhati bhunkte bhojayate chaiva षड्विधम Priti Lakshanam. So guhyamakhyaati prichhati. So I must reveal my mind, I must inquire confidentially, I must get guidance. Not that I just have conversations with my mind and I read Prabhupada books and I think I am that devotee, that pure devotee. Prabhupada is saying, me. If I think like that and I see everything from that lens, then obviously I am going to come to the wrong conclusions. The very first symptom of a pure devotee is that he will never think he is pure, he will always think he is fallen. So if I am thinking I am a great devotee, that means I am not. So check with Sadhu Shastra Guru, temple authorities, to evaluate who is actually trustworthy, who is not. Am I actually the problem, untrustworthy person, or somebody else, or am I seeing everything correctly? So that is important. Yeah, this is the educational resources. We will leave these links in the comment section and the Facebook video and on the YouTube recording of this in the description box. We will leave all these links that we have shared. We will compile and put in the description box so that you can access. Jyoti Dev, what happens to a non-devotee who consumes prasadam regularly? Will there be an effect in his life? How long will it take to see the miraculous effect? Depends again how offenselessly he takes. Like Ramanujacharya, there was a story of, he explained the significance of Mahaprasadam. That by Mahaprasadam one can be liberated. It's a personal mercy of Krishna. And the disciples were like, but we are eating prasadam every day, 2-3 times. Nothing is happening. We're not advancing so much. We still have so many anarthas in our mind. So how true is this statement? So Ramanujacharya, so they asked him this question. So Ramanujacharya took some prasadam and went to the lake, and he threw some prasadam in the water, and the fish rushed and then took the prasadam, and then they immediately changed to 400 forms and went straight back to Godhead. Ramanujacharya. So now the disciples became even more puzzled. Hare, fish lowest animal, and he is taking prasadam. In a second he is going back. We are brahmanas, we are scholars, and we are eating every day. What is missing? Then Ramanujacharya said, the fish, they took it out of complete desperation. One should take to Krishna Prasadam in honoring that my entire life depends on this. My entire life depends on chanting. My entire life depends on, reading all these things, devotional life. So we must take it with that earnestness. The fish, with great earnestness, they came to take the food. Whereas we have our own materialistic concepts. We don't take it as if our life depends on it. But they took it very eagerly. So we should be like that. Of course, we should not. I don't expect devotees to now run into the prasadam, room, and then the dining room, and then rush and push each other and then take all the prasadam and don't do the kind of things. Don't fight. But the intention with which one takes prasadam, out of how much, just like holy name, namaparad, namabha, shuddhanam, the attitude towards the holy name. What is that verse? Mahaprasade govinde nama brahmani vaishnave svalpa punyavatam rajan vishvaso naiva jayate. Those who are not very pious, they don't have much faith in the name, holy name. They don't have much faith in the Vaishnavas. They don't have much faith in the prasadam also. That's why with aparad we are taking. So therefore the effect is, but we can see that, you see how our consciousness was years ago and now. How much it has changed. Effect of Krishna consciousness. Taking Krishna prasadam, everything is important. Chanting Hare Krishna, reading, following the regulatory principles, all these things have purified. Reading and everything, it purified our heart, right? From where we were and where we are now. But the more eagerly we take to that, the faster the progress. Radhika Sakhi Mataji. Often when people say they have lost trust in genuine devotees, it's because their impure desires were not fulfilled. Many examples. I remember one ISKM full-time devotee shared with me once. Many devotees left their center because they feel disrespected. Truth was, those pseudo devotees wanted to smoke and drink and yet continue Krishna consciousness. Our ISKM devotees criticized and forbade such behavior. For this reason, people lost trust in them. Yeah, this happens so much. They want people who support their thing. Unfortunately, our movement is not for that. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji said, one thing the devotee says and then he chastises, and then the materialist chooses to leave the association of devotees. The harsh words of a sadhu. But they are actually the medicine by which he can be saved. But he takes it another way. Alright, so I think I will end it there. Thank you all very much. Harināma Cintāmaṇi ki jai, Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Haridas Thakur ki jai, Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So we'll be having Gaur Purnima in 2 days. This is our new year for Vaishnavas. And I don't know if tomorrow I can also have the class. I don't know. I think devotees will be busy with a lot of service. Maybe. So after that only I can do. Alright. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.